Hi, Matt. I was looking forward to talking to you.
I really get turned on by like good ideas and good stories.
I've been cursed and blessed with an overactive imagination.
If people like it or whether they don't like it, no consequence to me. I prefer that they liked it. Even just saying that made the hairs on my arm stand up.
MattLees Gets Creative contains themes and subjects that may not be suitable for everyone listening. If you're easily offended, we suggest that you get your podcast on elsewhere.
This time on MattLees Gets Creative, it's our Season 1 finale. Thank you, loyal listeners, for joining me not only for this episode, but for all of Season 1 of MattLees Gets Creative, a passion project podcast. But alliterations aside, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you that listened, that shared, that liked, that subscribed, that sent an email, that sent a tweet. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to my wonderful wife for helping me craft this into an actual podcast outside of just a bunch of interviews sitting on a hard drive. Now, stay tuned for Season 2. We'll be back before you know it. Make sure you follow us at ML Gets Creative, Twitter and Instagram, Facebook group, YouTube channel. You get the drill by now. We're available everywhere. We want you to join us. We want you to follow us. Now, on to our season finale. I promised you a great episode. How much do I really need to say about Brendan B. Brown from Northport, New York, commonly known as BBB? He is the lead vocalist, guitarist, and founding member of the pop rock band Wheatus. And even if you think you don't know them, you definitely do.
'Cause I'm just a teenage dirtbag, baby.
I spoke to him as he's about to launch his 2019 spring tour with Wheatus, including stops local to MattLees Gets Creative right here in the good old United Kingdom. We've got stops in Exeter, we've got stops in Glasgow, we've got stops in Swindon, Bristol, Birmingham, Norwich, Sheffield, Southampton, Swansea, Wigan, Carlisle, Newcastle, Manchester, London. You get the point. He's going to be all over the place. Wheatus are going to be all over the United Kingdom and Europe. Make sure you check out Wheatus.com to secure your tickets. Do not miss this show. It guarantees to be an awesome night of pop, punk, and rock. Here's my conversation. I was truly honored to be able to have him on the podcast. Myself and Brendan B. Brown of Wheatus signing off for Season 1. I'm Matt Lees. This is MattLees Gets Creative. Thanks for listening.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Great. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm just I'm walking the dogs.
Oh, that's awesome, isn't it? That's kind of like a juxtaposition, isn't it? There's two sides to every story, I always say. And I spoke to a guy who plays in a Blues Brothers tribute act. They're ranked top in Europe. They play in front of thousands of people. And he says, no matter what, the next day I'm walking my dog and picking up dog poo. So,
yeah, exactly. As I was telling you, I was walking a dog. I was actually picking up dog poop. So it couldn't be more perfectly timed.
Absolutely. What a great start we're off to. Firstly, I have to thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to talk to me. And to get the fanboy, I always like to get the fanboying out of the way. I adore your band. I adore your music. And if you could have worn out CDs, I would have worn out your debut album on CD. I've bought it many times. I love it. So thank you for the music as well.
Oh, thanks, Matt. What a wonderful thing to say, man. It means a lot. Matthew, our bass player, is kind of coordinating this, and he doesn't tell me anything about it, and that's a nice surprise. That's a really nice surprise. Where are you from?
So I'm living in South Wales now in the UK. I was born here, but I lived most of my life in near Toronto, Canada. So I've kind of lived in both places, but my formative years, definitely Toronto, Canada. And a big part of that in high school, man, was your record. And I think it spoke to me too, because I was at that age where I wanted a girl to buy me Iron Maiden tickets, you know, and I wanted the hot girl in my school to recognize me. And it was just such a wonderful experience for me, man. I always like to start at the beginning, though. So where did it start for you with inspiration of performing or music? What was the first kernels that you remember from that?
Oh, man. My family tell me a story about I was 2 years old, standing in the mirror, singing along and dancing to Bobby Darin's version of Mac the Knife.
Right.
So that's going way back. I think I thought it was about Jaws.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, fast forward to 1983, 84. I won 2 albums in a candy drive. One was Synchronicity by the Police, and the other was Thriller, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
And I kind of wore them both out. I was already starting to mess around with the guitar at that point. My mother had a guitar, so, I had been into the Grease soundtrack and Sha Na Na and stuff like that. And let's see. Then I kind of got into like the heavier stuff, like AC/DC, Metallica, Rush, in my sort of like early teens. And that was when the notion of like guitar precision began to be a thing,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was playing along too and teaching myself a lot of sort of complicated metal and progressive rock stuff early, like 12, 13. And I was also always a big Prince fan, no matter what. Like every song I ever heard by Prince, I really liked and sang along to. And between Prince and Rush, and Willie Nelson, really, I think I developed my sort of guitar, songwriting, and singing motifs.
Yeah.
And I started singing along to Prince and to Rush before I hit puberty. So it's kind of still there for me,
Right.
those high notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's what I just brought you up to when I was like 14, 15.
Yeah. Yeah. And also all those inspirations you mentioned are definitely there in the music too, man, because there isn't just one style for Wheatus, it must be a little bit frustrating for you as well. One of the themes on this podcast, the basic idea is I'm a musician, so I want to talk to other creative people. And I've talked to actors, writers, directors, all manner of people. And everybody kind of talks about that gift and curse of this creative talent and this gift that we have. And for yourself, I mean, so many fantastic songs. There must be times where you're kind of not bummed out. That's the wrong word, but you're not just the teenage dirtbag guy. I hope that comes across in the complimentary way that I mean it.
Yeah,
there's many great songs.
Totally. I don't and have never, and I don't think I ever will see Teenage Dirtbag as any kind of a curse or a burden.
No.
Primarily because, it's a very difficult song to play correctly. It has this, and we worked on it for years and years before we recorded it, but that sort of slinky, like Motown hip hop drum thing, like that lope that it has.
Uh-huh.
Whenever we hire a new drummer, that's always the one that takes the longest, hands down. And it's the other thing is like it's high stakes because people know what it's supposed to sound like and they need it delivered that way. So we take it very seriously, and it's fun. It's fun to play when you know how to do it, but it requires ongoing maintenance.
Yeah.
It's the key is rather high. It's in the key of E. It's like there's some high vocal parts in that. Teenage Dirtbag is, I think, the single reason that I am required to maintain vocal health. So I don't drink on the road or anything like that. So, but as far as our other songs, I've kind of seen it like this. Like Teenage Dirtbag is like this business weapon that we have. It's our manager. It's our lawyer.
Yeah.
It's our promo company. It's like, it's this thing that goes out there and does all this work for us so that we can get on stage and play songs like 14 and Lemonade and The Fall in Love and Valentine, and Lullaby and these sort of the stuff that I consider to be interesting to me after the fact,
Yeah.
So I don't see a downside to it at all. My like creative energy is extremely eclectic. If somebody asks, I always kind of say like, well, what kind of music do you like? Well, it's like if Metallica and the Talking Heads got together and then got a girl to sing.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of thing, with a lot of hip hop influence, especially in the rhythm, you know. So I don't know. I very much enjoy the richness of all the varied attempts at music we've made over the years. Like, you know, it's very much on purpose that our records don't sound like each other, and that's an ongoing effort. So.
Yeah, which is a great
renewable resource.
Yeah, and it's a great thing as a fan, you know, because I guess Teenage Dirtbag gets you in the door. It kicks the door open, but then there's all these other great tunes and all, like you said, eclectic styles. For example, Wannabe Gangster, when I used to play that for people, and I tell them it was the same band, they'd be like, really? And they'd still dig it, though. And you're so right with the rhythm of Teenage Dirtbag. Somebody may listen to that and think, oh, that's a rad tune. Sounds relatively simple. But as a man who's included it in his cover sets, I can confirm it is not, and that it is a tricky tune.
Yeah, it is tricky to get the feel right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like I have a funny little guitar style that's kind of half Willie Nelson, half Mark Knopfler. When I play with my fingers, I don't play Teenage Dirtbag with a pick. I play it with it's finger picked, so it's that's a little bit tricky too. But I've seen a lot of people play it with a pick. I've seen them turn it into your basic metal or rock and roll song. That's fine with me. I love that. But I don't think I've ever seen anybody play it like pick it properly on acoustic guitar. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, thanks for playing it in your set, by the way. That's really cool.
I should probably PayPal you a couple of bucks, to be honest. But it's funny, you mentioned it's in E, and this will be one of those musician conversations that only really musicians can have. My friends used to make fun of me because I had this running thing accidentally where I'd always start in G. And of course, you get to the high part and you're like, oh, come on. So I'd always stop, laugh along with the crowd, go back down to E, explain that I was being stupid and that I did it wrong. And as I got older, I would just pray and hope that the crowd would sing the female part, you know. And luckily, I'm happy to report that no matter where in the world I've played it, even in my silly little pub sets, it always gets a sing-along, man.
You know, that's the way to do it. Like, people have asked me, like, you know, why do you think the song endures and all that stuff? And I feel like the honest answer to that is because people can feel that song is about them and not about me. Mm-hmm. Like it's way more important, their interpretation of the lyric, your interpretation of the key is way more important for the longevity of the song than any sort of strict interpretation could ever hope to be. So I'm happy to hear people fucking with it. You know, that makes me happy.
Yeah, and they really do. Something else I always loved about it was the self-produced thing. I know, for example, the first record, if I'm correct, you guys mixed and recorded and did that yourself. Now, kids these days, I love saying that, kids these days, they probably think, how hard could it really be to mix and record a record? You know, I do it here in my home studio. I mix songs. I send them to a drummer in Canada, a keyboard player in Barcelona. I mix it all together, and then I can release my fun little singles. But back then, it wasn't that easy to do that, man. So it must have been an awesome experience, and then an extremely proud thing when this thing took off because you guys recorded that yourself. What was that process like?
So I had started making the record in 1995, or late 94, I should say, where I was still at college. There was a little bit of tinkering with the ideas of a band that played stuff that way. But I was solitary for many years, from approximately early 95, late 94 through to about 97. I wasn't showing anybody that music. I was in a laboratory. I had my 4-track and my drum machine and my bass, and I was building the songs and tearing them apart and mixing them down to analog cassette, and then taking the cassette into my car, driving to work, singing along to it, learning how to sing, learning how the lyrics needed to be. So like it was very much like a sort of like we were in the incubation state for over 2 years, and then then I started including my brother and a bass player, Rich Legi, and kind of like seeing how things would go with that. There were a couple of sort of like false starts with other people that just where we couldn't get on the same page of what I was trying to do. This kind of concept of a band that had a very heavy, eclectic sound, but was essentially outfitted like a folk band, aesthetically. And I wanted the aesthetics to be at odds with what the sound was. So that was it was a hard process. And then through the late 90s, I met up with my friend Phil Jimenez, and he was really interested in the concept that I had, this idea about the aesthetics being at odds with the music, and incorporating lots and lots of different sounds from different records without really acknowledging that the band is any one particular genre or the other. That was another thing. We wanted to have no allegiance. We just wanted to be doing what we were doing with it, and referencing things, and not committing to any type of band. You know.
Yeah.
And so he got that really well, and he helped me achieve that sonically. And over the course of 97, 98, and 99, we made Phil Jimenez and I made about 3 versions of the first record in that second tier laboratory that was just past me in the 4-track. We had gotten some digital machines, the DA38 Tascam multi-track machines from the 90s, and we were working on those, and we had a Soundcraft Ghost, which is an analog board, you might know. And we were really just refining and experimenting, and never once was there a conversation of we need to get a record deal, we need to get this out to people. It was just, no, let's find a sound. Let's find a new thing,
Yeah.
And then show people once we're sure about it. And we did just that. And then we got the record deal. It didn't take long. Once we started showing people, like 98, 99, we were playing showcases, and around the end of 99 and end of 98 and early 99, we started giving away a 4-song demo of what we had on CD so far. You know, we called it Teenage Dirtbag and Friends.
Right. That's cool.
And it was a giveaway at the merch booth. We just wanted people to hear it, you know?
Yeah.
So also I was working at a computer company, and the guys who ran that place were kind of telling me, music's going to be software. Don't bother signing a record deal. Be careful, get your digital rights. They were like in my ear about that. So, I had a little bit of a notion of the changes that were to come, but it was still very abstract. It wasn't like true prescience or anything.
Yeah.
So I did secure Wheatus.com and some other digital rights that were at the time sort of like obscure.
Right. Yeah.
And that was a lucky stroke for us. But moving forward, we got the record deal in late 99, and Columbia Records wanted to put out the demos we've been working on. And I said, listen, please give us one more chance. We've been in the laboratory so long. Let's finish it properly.
Yeah.
So they gave us a $50,000 budget. I took every dime of that, and I bought gear. I bought Manley Massive Passive EQs, a couple of Neve preamps, an Amec preamp, an Avalon 737, a Manley Vox box. We had a few nice pieces, and we moved into my mother's house we moved the gear into my mother's house in early March or maybe late February of 2000, of the year 2000. And we built her house out to be a studio that remained that way until the first week of April when we delivered the record. So it took us a little over maybe 4 weeks to move in set up and record the final version of album 1 in my mother's house on Long Island.
Yeah, which is so cool.
And yeah. So we were at the time, we were collating and curating all of what we'd worked on over the years. Okay, this click track from the MPC 2000 version of Teenage Dirtbag that we did in early '97. This one really swings. Let's do that with this kick drum, and like we really started to like cherry pick all the hard work that we'd done over the years, and make the best of it, you know. And you know, final decisions. I remember I was like sort of begging our bass player at the time to play it with his fingers. He wanted to play it with a pick, and I was like, please, just do this for me. And you know, like,
yeah.
So you know, those kind of things, those really tricky little like ingredients that without those things, it would be very, very different, and you wouldn't know why. You know.
Yeah.
So we got it done. It was multi-tracked. We finished them. Oh, by the way, I was also still working my day job because I wasn't confident. Our contract had said that our deal was not truly active until we delivered an album that Columbia Records accepted.
Right.
So I kept my day job through this process, and it was a fucking nightmare, man. I was on the Long Island Railroad commuting into Times Square at 6:00 in the morning. I'd work until 7 p.m., jump on the train again, come out to Northport, Long Island, about an hour and a half away, work on the album until 2:00 in the morning, crash on the couch and repeat. Like for 4 weeks, it was murder.
Yeah.
And we got the album done. We delivered it first week of April. At the end of the first week of April, they sent the multi-tracks to a guy named Dave Thoner down in Tennessee. And now I picked him off of a list because he had mixed For Those About to Rock.
All right. Yeah.
By AC/DC. Right. So I saw an AC/DC credit on the list, and I was like, that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right there. And he sent back at the beginning of the second week of April, he sent back a version of Teenage Dirtbag mixed on an SSL 9000J console in Nashville that blew us away. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe we recorded this. Like somebody intended, it only took them a day to mix it. And so we knew that we had something going on that was really special. So we, you know, just sonically, it becoming a hit and all that stuff, that's all part of some chaos alchemy that has to do with timing and stuff. But just the raw sound of it was like earth shattering. So we said, go ahead, mix the rest of the record. And my brother and I drove down to Nashville, Tennessee, in the middle of April, with the multi-tracks in a wine box.
Right.
DA 78 HR multi-track high def, DAT tapes.
Right.
And we loaded them up in his rented DA 78s, and away he went. He mixed the rest of the album that way. And
then it all exploded.
We delivered it before the end of April, and Columbia Records accepted it, and then I quit my job.
Right. And was that did you quit? Like, did you have that moment of like, that's it, I'm fucking quitting this place? Or did you go out like a gentleman?
No, I just kind of gently, they knew that I was into music, and I kind of said to them, and they had been very nice to me, and I kind of said to them, guys, it's happened. We have a record deal that's where they accepted the album. So I do have to give you my notice. And they were like, we knew that was going to happen,
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, but anyway, by the end of it, by the beginning of May, they were talking about videos, and they were talking about releasing the single and who was going to be in the video, who was going to direct the video. Like, it was all very intense. So from that point onward, that summer is a bit of a blur.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I hope like younger listeners understand not only the impact the song had, but the times too. Like, it wasn't YouTube. It wasn't, hey Siri, what song is this? It wasn't, I'm going to pull it up on Spotify. For me anyway, it was, what song is that? where's my cassette deck? I need to tape this immediately. And you're sitting there just hoping that the DJ says the band name so you can look it up. You know, that song exploded. And then, of course, you end up with the record, which was amazing as well. And then, like you said, it's all a whirlwind from there. And even today, though, that record, I wanted to mention that record even today, as somebody who mixes my own stuff, still sounds awesome. And it's such a different experience. You mentioned driving the tapes back and forth. You know, guys I work with now, we use a Dropbox folder, you know, and he sends me an email and goes, there's a bass track in there. I recorded it on this and such, and that's such a thing. And, you know, you can switch them out. And my drummer's emailing me saying, I changed the bass pedal because I wasn't happy with the sound. There's a new take there. Different world, literally, you know?
Yeah, Moore's Law currently helping us out.
Yeah.
So it's like the exponential curve of technology has like been really beneficial to musicians. That's why I kind of wince when anybody says something like, "Oh, hasn't the internet kind of destroyed music?" I was like, "Yeah, well, only people who wanted to make $1 million without doing any work."
That's right.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, that's who can't play anymore. You know, but that's fine. I mean, you know, it's like if all those people are no longer doing it, I think that's why. I think it's one of the reasons that hip hop has so much to say these days. Like hip hop is in this insane golden age of like, you know, everyone says that the 90s were like the golden age of hip hop, and I'm calling bullshit. I think J. Cole and the weirder shit that Kanye does, and like, you know, Quelle Chris and like indie hip hop these days really has something to say, and I'm just happy to be alive during it. And you know, that's a culture of DIY that's more DIY than punk ever got, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you know, listen and learn, man. Listen and learn.
Definitely. Now, I'm loving our chat. I don't want to keep too much of your Sunday afternoon. As we wind down, you're about to embark on another worldwide tour, including stops right here in South Wales. It must be awesome to still be able to travel the world in places, for example, like Merthyr Tydfil. I imagine you guys getting to places in Wales and firstly seeing the road signs and hearing the accents of the locals must be mind-blowing for you. I was born here, lived here. I still have days where I have to say, what did he say?
Well, listen, man, we long ago when we first got to the UK, we were asked, what do we want to do? Do we want to play 7 shows in big rooms, or do we want to play 35 shows in small rooms? And we said 35, and that has made all the difference. Playing to smaller crowds every single night for 35, 45 days in a row is the way that bands used to get good, and it still is the way that bands get good. Mm-hmm. Like you get, by the end of that 3rd week, you are in some kind of new ninja level, you know, like you've been playing, you've been really doing it. And, you know, so that means that you got to go to the Aberystwyths and the,
nice,
you know,
pull,
the Bangor.
Well done.
Yeah. The Bangers and the, you know, you got to go to Newport, and you got to go to, you know, Loughborough and Scunthorpe and Grimsby and all these little places that we've been, you really need to go. And if the place doesn't have a proper PA, fucking build one, you know, like know how to do your shit, like know how to do it.
That's right.
Get in there, get your hands dirty, you know?
That's right.
So, I mean, that's been our move, and I'm glad we did that all those years ago, because it's made a big difference.
And I think it creates a bond with the fans because it's a more intimate gig for us. It's more intimate for you, because you know, I've seen bands that I love in massive arenas, and I don't enjoy those shows as much as I do as seeing them at the Horseshoe Tavern. You know, I like those little intimate gigs.
Sure. And that's how when I started seeing bands, that's how I like enjoyed it the most. When I was, you know, in my teens, when I really started going to see bands alone, it was like, the small gig. Have you ever been in a gig that's really small and it's packed, and you know that the performance you're getting is like of a quality that is outrageous? Like you're really watching something special. I remember watching Walt Mink at CBGB's when I was like 19 years old, and I thought that they were Led Zeppelin, and I was 10 feet away from them, and it was like the coolest thing, you know? So, and the other thing is, there are so many cities where, I can't tell you how many times this happens. I'll get off the bus and I'll walk around the corner and I'll see somebody who's come from just outside of town. Maybe they've taken public transport, or maybe they hired a car to get into town to see us. And it'll be a small city. And I'll have seen this person every year of my life for one single day for the last 18 or 20 years. Right.
Wow, yeah.
And I know this guy, and I know that I see his face or her face, and I say, "Hey, how you doing? You want to go get breakfast at that spot we had breakfast at like 18 years ago around the corner? Yeah, let's do it." And I sit down and eat with a person who once was a fan, but is now a member of the extended family for life.
Right. Yeah.
You know, the comfort of that is so overwhelming and perfect. I'm like, oh man, this is it. Like, we did something here that's better than arenas, that's better than MTV or, you know, any of that shit.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
That dude, thank you.
That's
sorry, my answer to that question would be Coheed and Cambria right here in Cardiff this year. They played.
Wow, you did?
I've seen them 5 or 6 times now, and you can definitely compare them to Wheatus in as much as their style is eclectic. It's all over the place. But when I saw those guys live this last time, it was jaw dropped, just kind of like watching these dudes, and you're like, they must be robots, man. They're so tight. They're so in the pocket. It's unbelievable. And they're so loud, and the crowd loves it, but it's a small, intimate crowd, and I love seeing them, man.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's almost like you're when you watch a band like that, because I like them as well. I listen to Coheed on my Spotify frequently. I think that they're like the most surgical progressive rock band in the modern era, and that seeing them is probably like watching surgeons operate.
That's definitely how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah. And if their crowd gets it, and they're standing there like in a small venue watching this incredibly complex and delicate operation go down, they're really witnessing something that is like, has taken an enormous amount of time and effort to prepare. And that is what's worth seeing.
Definitely.
Always.
Hey, man, I want to wish you so much luck on the tour. Again, I want to thank you not only for doing this podcast, but for the years of joy I've gotten from your music. I know I would say that because you came on my podcast, but I genuinely mean it. I interviewed tons of people for this thing, but you were one where I was actually really super excited. It was like a goal down the road. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I could talk to Brendan one day? Really, really awesome. Thank you. I wish you continued success. I'll be out there in the crowd for one of these shows on this tour, that's for sure. And thank you again, my friend. If we could,
thank you very much, Matt. Good luck with your band, man. You know, on Twitter, you can link me to your stuff. Please do.
I definitely will. We're putting a couple of blues ditties together right now, so I'll link something your way one day soon. And again, good luck. Thank you, and all the best.
Awesome. All right, take care, brother.
Signing off for Season 1, I'm Matt Lees. This is MattLees Gets Creative. Thanks for listening.